series. So we started since Monday and we're rounding up today with the mobile section, the mobile development track. So we'll be waiting for a few minutes and we'll start by on or before 11:10. Just want more people to join. So can just hang in and when it's time we'll start. Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we'll be starting now. So for those joining, I'm just going to be brief again. So good morning everyone, once again, a good day. Yeah, like I said earlier, we are rounding up today. We'll be a lot of sessions this week from Monday to yesterday. We had various areas of tech, from tech writing to front end to back end to machine learning and AI. And I hope everyone that attended, I hope you all enjoyed and you all gained in from each of the sessions. So today it's the wrap up. So having two speakers and we're just dealing with the mobile track today. So having two speakers, one speaking on Android and one speaking on Flutter. So first off, we're going to our first speaker for today is Chisu Wonku. I hope I got that right.
Yeah, you got it right.
Oh, thank you. So I'm just going to give a brief bio about Chisom. So Chisom fondly likes to be called Kotlin. Is an Android developer based in Nigeria. She is currently a Microsoft partner advocating for Microsoft technologies. That is the Power Platform. Also, she's an Android developer and she writes about various Android development tools and best practices on Espresso. So I would like everyone to welcome, virtually welcome Chisom as she begins her talk on Android development. Over to you, Chisom.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. I'm happy to be here. So, I have a couple of slides I would love to share. So, I'll be sharing my slides now. Okay, so are you guys seeing the slides?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll just start. So, welcome to today's event. We'll be talking about different things actually, getting started in Android, little tips and tricks for those of us that have already started doing something in Android development and stuff like that. So I think I'll just go on. So she had already introduced me. Chisomuku. I'm an Android developer. I'm also a Microsoft student partner in University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I'm currently studying computer science in my final year. So I advocate Microsoft technologies in my campus. I also write about various Android development tools and best practices on my blog. And I'm also starting a side career in IT project management. So today is going to be really fun. We're going to be talking about so many things. What is Android development, getting started, various components of an Android application, tips and tricks, challenges you might face while developing or while starting out your career, building your very first project, and a little bit of resources I drafted out for this event. So I hope you guys enjoy the session. So first of all, what is Android development? When you hear Android development, the first thing that should come to your mind is developing applications that run on Android OS or Android devices. So Android software development is the process by which applications are created for devices running the Android operating system. So if you develop an application on your laptop and you can safely run it on your Android device, you have started developing for the Android OS. So Android development entails a lot. When you talk about software development, the first thing that comes to your head is programming languages, because those are the major tools to start your foundations with. So you can build Android apps basically with 3 languages. There should be more, but at least these are the ones I know about. First is Kotlin, second is Java, and third is C++. So these languages has their pros and cons for building Android applications. Kotlin, for one, became the official language for building Android apps. But that doesn't mean Java and C++ have been outdated, because as developers, once you hear that new tools have come up, or once you hear that people are developing a new language, it's more like the engineering team knows the pain points of developing with some languages, and so they go ahead to like prepare or build other languages that would help development easier. So Kotlin is the official language for developing Android applications. There are so many lovely things about Kotlin. This is the official Kotlin website. If you want to get to know about Kotlin, Kotlin is also building a multi-platform mobile, so you can build for the Android phone and the iOS device, server side, and you can also use Kotlin for your web front end. So this is the official Kotlin website. If you want to learn, these are the IDEs you could use in coding in Kotlin, IntelliJ, Android Studio, Eclipse, and your compilers. And so if you're interested in learning Android development, I think this should be your first step, learning about Kotlin as a language. Udacity has a very nice course on Kotlin, Kotlin basics, functions, and the introduction is more like a boot camp. So if you're new to coding, or if you start coding, this course is the first thing you should come into when you are trying to learn Android. Like I said, Java and C++ aren't really phased out. Some companies still use Java to build their Android applications. Why? Because probably their code base is so large and they haven't yet migrated. But Kotlin, the good thing about Kotlin or Android development as a whole is you can recompile your Java code to Kotlin. There will be a little bit of errors here and there, but it's possible. You can always recompile your Java code to Kotlin code. I don't know about recompiling from Kotlin to Java. So those are the 3 major languages developing Android applications. So getting started, software development as a whole, for me, most people say you do not need passion to build anything. At least most people say passion is just like a background energy booster, but as far as I've come, I've seen that passion is the one thing someone would need, someone like me would need, because passion gives you this excitement. Like I wrote here, passion is energy. Feel the power that comes from focusing on what excites you. So there are some times where you might hit a lot of roadblocks, and money cannot, the thought of money cannot really take you off those stubborn bugs or stubborn things you can't figure out. But if you're like me and you have the passion for what you're doing, if what you're doing excites you, I think that could actually bring you out of that confusion hole or something. So the first thing you need to have is passion. There are so many fields in technology. There is web, there is mobile, there's cloud, there are other non-tech fields. So you should figure out the one that excites you the most. You should figure out the one that you would find yourself doing long term without being forced to. So for me, this is the first thing you should have. Secondly, starting out with Android development, you have to pick a language. Like I said, as of 2017, Kotlin became the official language for developing Android applications. So it's best you go with Kotlin. Me, for one, I use both Java and Kotlin, but for what I've seen, Kotlin is more readable and the boilerplate code is less. So picking a language and learning, you don't really need to learn 100% of that language, but at least you should learn how to create variables or functions or print out statements. You just need like the basic things that language has to offer before you now jump into Android development majorly. Thirdly is the official Android documentation. This is like every single thing you need to start. So this is the documentation for app development. You can see several things: getting started, building your first app, API references, design guidelines, so many things. Like I said, this is like the Bible of Android development. If you get stuck, you could search Stack Overflow or read different articles, but most of the time I see myself coming back to the major Android developers documentation, because everything is just listed out here the way you would understand it better. So this is for when you're developing for several Android devices like watches and Android TV and others. So you can learn so many things here. They even have courses that you can take. They have courses that you can take. They have different libraries. If you want to import libraries for your application, every single thing is here. Everything you need to know is here. These are the code labs you can go through if you're just getting started, online video courses, training courses, YouTube videos. Every single thing you need is here. So this should be your go-to point if you're stuck or if you need quality documentation on how every single thing you're doing works, down to how to add a button on your Android application. So this should be your go-to website. Thirdly is Android Studio. Android Studio is the major tool for building Android applications. Some people like to do it the hard way. Some people use Eclipse. I know of people that use Eclipse and IntelliJ, but that's like, that's just basically stressing yourself, because Android Studio has almost everything. You can compile your code, you can build your APKs, you can run your application. But using other IDEs is just, you're just suffering yourself because you have to fetch different things from different places. So Android Studio is the official tool for developing Android applications. This is the website. If you would love to download, you could just type Android Studio download on Google and you come across this website. So it has different things. I think it has steps to download. I'm not sure. But you could get those on YouTube if you're interested, how to download Android Studio, because it's a little bit tricky. When I first started, I had to download my applications, my Android Studio, like about 4 times, because I didn't really know there were steps in doing it. So you could use YouTube, or better still, you can tell someone to help you or tell someone to guide you, so you don't end up wasting your data and wasting your time. So this is the official website. When you click download, it starts downloading, then you could start setting everything up. This beauty of Android Studio, it has an inbuilt emulator, it has an APK analyzer. This is where you design your code. It has an intelligent code editor for predictions, build systems, really nice. So you can download your Android Studio right here. The third is material design. Material design is the design language developed for Google to help designers and end users replicate Google's work. So when we think of design, what you think of is what you see on your cell phone. If you open Twitter or LinkedIn or Slack on your phone, everything you see there is design. Everything you see there, coming from the buttons, the bottom navigation, every single thing you click is a design. So material design gives people a guide on how things are meant to look like. This is the official material design website. So material design is the official design guide for developing for Android phones. If you've used an Android phone and you've used an iPhone, you notice that how the applications are designed are not the same. They are definitely not the same. So this would help you streamline your designing to making sure you're using the correct guides, making sure you're not putting buttons where they are not meant to be, making sure you're using the correct color code, making sure you're using the correct iconography and icons as well. So material design helps you as a guide. It gives you various things to look at, like an app bar, how this is meant to look like, how this is meant to look like. You don't need to think so much on how this is meant to be or how where this is meant to be. So this gives you like a guide on how to place your buttons, how to place your floating action bar, how to do almost every single thing. Designing is the first thing you think of when you're starting to create an application, and this should be your go-to website to make sure that you're on track and to make sure that you're giving your users the best experience. And lastly, write some code, get to work, stay updated, watch YouTube videos, do your courses, build personal projects. Just make sure that you're doing something every day. It might seem very small. You can just do a button that says hello and show to your friends, show to your family. It doesn't matter. But for the fact that it runs on your phone, it should be something that should motivate you to do more. And before you know it, you're building scalable applications that million and one people can download and use effectively. So the third is what makes an Android application. Any Android application you download on Play Store has several components, several things running at the same time. So these are the four major components of an Android application. The first is an activity. An activity represents a single screen with a user interface. In short, an activity performs actions on the screen. So like I said, if you open Twitter, for instance, the page that you're interacting with is officially an activity. Once you navigate out of that page to maybe your messages or your profile or your tweets, that is another activity. So it's, like I said, it's a single screen. So the screen you're currently looking at is your activity. That's number one component of an Android application. The second component is a service. A service is a component that runs in the background to perform long-running operations. So I'm going to break it down a bit. If you, for instance, open a web browser, you notice that there is this circle that keeps moving and it's loading. It keeps loading till the internet brings what you're meant to see. So that is a service running at the background. It performs long operations, it fetches your data for you. But the thing about a service is you can't see it, but you can use something to represent that something is actually running, like a progress bar or a loading indicator. The third is content providers. Content providers basically manages your app's data, system storage, and all that. I could use WhatsApp for instance. You have your images, your audio files, your documents. So a content provider can manage all that data and package it in a way that you can send it to another app, or you can send it as an email or something. That's what content providers do. Broadcast receivers is a component that enables the system to deliver events to the app outside of a regular user flow. So when I think of broadcast receivers, I think of the system, like the hardware. Now, talking about the hardware, your phone. You can imagine it as your battery, when you're having battery low, when your system is trying to boot, when you're restarting your phone. So all that will be integrated into your Android app. And to be a really good Android developer, you need to know how to integrate all these components together to make sure that they're working fine and nothing is hanging or nothing is slacking. So these are the 4 major components of an Android application. So tips and tricks for those of us who have already started doing something with Android. Recently, the Android team released the Android Jetpack library that's comprised of so many libraries that help making development easier. So I'll start with architecture. Like I said, spend time studying about architecture for developing Android applications. Mdvm clearly separates the user interface from the application logic and eliminates the need for application redesign. So the architecture of your app is not so hard to imagine. It's like building a house, knowing where this should be and knowing how they connect to each other. So MDVM stands for Model View View Holder, and it's like the most popular Android architecture model. So this is like a little model of MDVM. We've seen how it separates what you see from what is going on in the background. So this looks a little bit complicated, so I'm just going to break it down a bit. So what we see here is room and SQLite. Once you hear SQLite, you hear your data, your database. And room is sort of like an abstraction over SQLite. Retrofit is data fetched from the internet. So from here down is your data. And now from the diagram, this arrow is not bidirectional. This arrow is just looking at these two. So we see that the only thing that has access to our data is the repository. Only the repository can see our data. So there is a little abstraction because the role of this repository is just to handle the data, nothing more, nothing less. And this is our view model. The role of our view model is like, let's look at our view model like a pot now, and the repository like maybe our shopping bag. So we put everything we bought from our repository into our pot. And what our pot does, in brackets, view model, it cooks up our food in any way it likes. It manipulates every single data we get from these two guys right here. So once it cooks up everything, once you finish cooking, obviously you put your food inside the plate. And so this activity of fragments is our plate, is the plate that we can see to start eating. So what we're eating, we don't really care about how it was cooked or where it was cooked or what we used in cooking it, but the only thing that we know is that we can see the food that we're eating. So that's just a basic explanation of this diagram. Your activity of fragments is only meant to display data. It's not meant to do any background work, or it's not meant to manipulate any data. It's just to display data. The view model is meant for any manipulation you want, maybe 1 + 1, 2 + 2. The total gets displayed here. Then the repository is what is managing. It's like the organ of these are two huge data sources here. So architecting your app makes everything separate. If you've worked with MVVM, you'd attest with me that your project view looks organized. You have your UI, you have your repository, you have your models, everything is in its own basket. So what you need to do is pick all those things up from their baskets and connect them together, and there you have your Android app. But before, how it was, everything would just be scattered, you just be sometimes actually very confusing. And I just recently started using MVVM, so I could say that it's a very nice way to architect the application. Secondly is flexible slash adaptive Uis. So the mistake I usually make is when I just start creating Android applications, I only do designs for my mobile device. When I finish a design and I run it on my phone and I see that something is jumping or there's a particular button that isn't in the center, I align it to fit for just my device. And I notice the problem because when I run that same design on someone else's phone, everything just shifts, everything just scatters. So I learned how to build for all devices. As an Android developer, you're not building just for your device. There are different screen sizes, there are different phone models. A particular phone might be longer than the other, or a particular phone might be smaller. So you need to make sure that your application is adaptive. The application can scale in other people's devices, because definitely you're going to publish this app on Play Store and people are going to download it and they're going to call you and say, okay, I can't see this button is hiding here, or I can't click on this button, or this text is too small. So you have to make sure that what you're designing is adaptive, what you're designing can scale on other phone screen sizes. Third is navigation. Navigation is best for handling fragment transactions, stack control, and it provides a standardized resource for animations and transitions. So navigation is navigation. Navigation is moving from one part of your application to another. So this is like the skeleton of Android navigation. It's very easy. The way it looks is exactly how it works. Probably when you click a button here, this arrow shows where that button is going to open. When you click a button here, this arrow shows where that button is going to open. So the Android team actually made it very easy for us with this navigation library to make sure that our app navigates properly. So with this library, you can manage your backstack, like when you open an application and you want to go back, like you're using the back button on your Android phone, the library makes sure that that back button takes you to exactly the previous screen. There are no mistakes or there are no lapses when you want to move to the previous screen. So this is one of the libraries you should be versed with, you should learn how to use, because it saves a lot of problems and it saves a lot of time. So that's that. And then the Android Studio Canary 4.2, it has the support for Jetpack Compose, motion editors, and Java 8. I do not have this yet. I haven't downloaded this yet, but if you are interested, you can visit the Android website to download. You can see the latest tools it's coming with and why you should download it. So other versions of Android do not support Jetpack Compose. Jetpack Compose is like a new UI library for Android. I don't want to get into it because it's going to sound very complicated. So it's just basically a UI library for Android that just came out recently from the team. And lastly, the Android Jetpack libraries. These are amazing libraries, honestly. This is where you have your room, data binding, paging, fields, fragments, material design components. So this is like a powerhouse. But if you are versed with data binding, life cycles, live data, all those things, if you can learn them or if you can get yourself comfortable with them, then you wouldn't have any problems or any serious issues developing a well built Android application. So this is the amazing Jetpack library. It has a lot of features for the UI, for your foundations. I, for one, I don't know anything. I don't know everything here, but I know a few and I'm still learning a lot of them. So this tool is very powerful. If you're just starting an Android, I won't advise you to swallow everything at once. Just take your time and understand what each of them does and how it can benefit you for building your app, because I mean, they brought it out for a reason. They brought it out to help a particular problem or help solve a particular problem. So that's that for tips and tricks. So challenges, there are going to be various challenges if you're just starting out, or even if you're not starting out, if you've been doing this, you would agree with me that there are different challenges developing an app. For instance, planning about the app. Assuming you're planning your personal project or something you just want to do personally to solve a problem, there's a lot of headache in planning. Number one, how will it look like? Number two, what will I use to build it? Number three, which libraries do I need? Number four, the color code and all that, from how it looks like to how it's going to work to who is going to use it and the time frame. So planning is the most important part of development. If you could set up a very good plan and set up the time frame and different things that you need before even creating the project, you won't find it hard finishing that project. So that's that for planning. Development has a lot, a lot of, a lot of, how do I put it? A lot of headache as well. Development is really hard. You need to figure out how this works and how this will talk to this, how this component will talk to this component, how my designs, how I'm going to wire up my designs to my code and different things. So there are various challenges you face while you're developing. You're going to come across a lot of bugs. You're going to come across a lot of depreciated libraries. So you have to like improvise or switch over to something else. But at the end, you're definitely going to finish your application. The third is testing. I haven't written a lot of tests, but I could say that testing is a little bit hard. So there's UI testing and other sort of tests. So you need to test your application. You need to run your application on other people's devices to make sure that your application is responsive and to make sure that you're not missing out on some tiny details. So these steps are what you need to take into consideration when you're developing your application, because if you spend less time on a particular one, it might affect the ones before it or the ones after it. Lastly is shipping your application. There is one thing in finishing your Android app and there's another thing in fighting with Play Store. You're going to have a lot of quarrels and wahala with Play Store once you want to ship, because they would be the ones to pinpoint several things that are wrong or several things that need a little bit fixing. So there is work in shipping as well and publishing your application. But at the end of these 4 stages, your application is going to be up and running on several devices around the world, and it's definitely going to be something you should be proud of. So yes, for the newbies in the house, building your very first Android application. Number one is it doesn't have to be super big. You don't need to build a space engine to Mars. Your application doesn't need to help financial markets around the world to convert money, stuff like that. So it doesn't need to be really amazing, it doesn't need to be breathtaking. But the most important thing is you built something and it works. And it might solve a problem for you, it might not solve a problem, but you built something and it works on your phone perfectly fine. Secondly, it might not be a solution. It could be a personal to-do list, personally for you. Maybe you have your name written boldly on it, but it shouldn't be a solution. But at least for now, until you start building bigger applications, but your first project might not be a solution. But the most important thing is you build something from scratch and it's working. Third is learn and deliver. Keep learning new concepts, keep learning about new tools and integrating to your application. That's how you learn. Watching YouTube videos helps you learn, but until you actually sit down to implement these things yourself, that's where the learning process starts. So keep learning, and as you're learning, keep practicing, and as you're practicing, also keep learning. So it's like a cycle because you never stop learning. And thirdly, be proud of yourself. No matter how small what you did is, definitely be proud of yourself. I can remember when I just started, what I did was a simple to-do list. This app was very ugly, to be honest. It was very, very ugly, but I was proud of myself. Why? Because it worked and I was able to come through with all the bugs and all the little things I couldn't remember or implement. So no matter what it is, always be proud of yourself. So these are some resources I curated from Google. It could be for beginners, or it could be for people that are already developing Android applications. The Android developer roadmap, if you want a straightforward guide on how to go about your Android development journey. Android best practices, practical guides in learning Android code lab. These are really nice because they give you, like, they basically hold your hand while developing an application. And then my blog, I write about Android development tools and best practices. And lastly, I forgot to add Udacity. Udacity has a huge chunk of Android development courses that you could try, whether you're in the business or whether you're just trying to start up. They have a lot of advanced courses there. And YouTube is something people don't really talk about much, but YouTube helps a lot because you can build some applications from scratch and still learn something from it. So, okay, so I guess that's the end of my talk. And I hope you go forth and make magic with code. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer from any one of you guys. If there are any questions, maybe something wasn't so clear, or you just want to ask some questions outside of what I spoke about.
If you have any questions, please ask. Type in the chat section. Don't like switch on your microphone. Thank you. Okay, Chisom, you have a question or
Okay.
questions.
Mm.
Khalid is asking, did you start out as an Android dev? How many years of experience do you have? And is there really a difference between a Java dev and Kotlin dev? And also, do you use both languages?
Okay, so I started Android. Okay, basically I started coding September 2018. So I learned Java till the end of that year. I learned Java September, October, November, December. So by January 2019, I felt I was comfortable enough to start doing Android, or to start developing Android applications. So from January till now, that should be about a year and some months. A year and 11 months, yes. So that's how long. Then the difference between a Java developer and a Kotlin developer with Android in the context here. Well, there isn't any difference. There isn't any difference because you can write in those two languages and still run the same app, and they do things the same way. But the thing is, once you start developing with Kotlin, going back to Java will be a little bit hard because Kotlin is should I say, is more readable. The code bases are short. What Java will take you with like 20 lines, Kotlin can just do it with 5 lines. And you'd notice that it's better for development. But I'm not saying, or I'm not trying to downcast Java. If you're comfortable with Java, you can still continue. It's all about you. It's all about what you're comfortable with. But the thing is, technology is changing. So many things are changing. So if you really want to wear the shoes of a developer, you should be comfortable with changing your tools, changing what you use to work. So I would advise you continue. If you're just starting, I'd advise you just continue with your Java and maybe learn Kotlin at the side to make sure that you are not outdated, because a time will come where people would start migrating their code bases to Kotlin and probably use Java for those bigger back-end services. Yes, like maybe banks or something. And you notice that you might not follow the loop. And most job applications now, you'll be seeing Java/Kotlin, but with time you'll be seeing only Kotlin. So I feel if you're still learning, continue with Java. Nobody's pursuing you, but at least try to be learning Kotlin at the side, because Kotlin has a lot of lovely features that you would enjoy when you're learning or when you're developing. So I think that's it.
Okay, so another question for a beginner: if you have very basic programming knowledge, at least you can
Okay.
write simple codes. Can you still make an attempt at Android dev, or you have to have like a very wide knowledge on coding?
Okay, so I didn't have a very wide knowledge of coding. I just did Java. And to be honest, Java I did wasn't so spectacular like that. I just learned how to make variables, do conditional statements, while loop, if else, and all those things. I didn't really go. The only core thing I did with Java, I didn't even do Java UI or all those Java UI frameworks. The only core thing I did with Java was just a simple server-side login and sign-in stuff. I didn't really go deep in Java. But I noticed that is when I started learning Android, I started understanding Java the most, like the object-oriented side of Java. I learned how to create classes. I actually saw the how to implement classes in an Android application. I saw how to use inheritance. I saw how to use polymorphism and all those stuff. So if anybody tells you you need to be a superman in a particular language before you dive in, well, it's not really necessary, but it's you that will tell yourself that, see, I'm confident with this language. I think I can start this. So if you can learn the foundations, nothing too high tension, just the foundations. Then when you feel comfortable, you can start Android development. Android development is it's a little bit hard, but at the start you're going to start enjoying it, and it's when you start utilizing the language that you're going to appreciate the language better. So I feel you should just start. When you start, you can now know why this does this in a particular language, or why this is like this in Java using Android. So I feel you should just, if you've learned enough, if you feel you've learned enough, you could just start, because I mean, just start. Highest, you get confused, but you get through it. But just start. That's the most important thing.
Okay, so another question: do you have to be a front end developer before you become an Android dev?
No, you don't need to be a front end developer. I feel front end development is for the web. Yeah, I think it's for the web. So you don't actually need any what do they call it? Any prerequisite career to start in Android. So thing in Android is just learn your Kotlin and start developing. But where you have little problems is when it comes to how the application will look like. I have problems with that too, because I mean I'm not a UI UX designer. So I'll be thinking of what color should I put here? What color should this button be? How should this thing look like? So since you're not a UI UX designer, you cannot come and kill yourself. Just go to maybe all these mock-ups for designs like Dribble, what do they call them? Yes, Dribble and all those websites. You see a lot of amazing designs there that you can replicate on your application. So you don't need to know anything about front end or how an application should look like, but you need to know how to implement or replicate those designs that you see with code. So that's where the work is, how to replicate these designs. So you don't need to know how to do front end. You just need to know how to look for the right app layout on Google and bring it back to your application.
Okay, so another question: do you need like a certificate to show people that you're an Android developer?
No, you do not. But if you have the opportunity to get one, you should, because at least I mean everybody is looking for, the job market is getting a little bit high. Everybody's looking for what to stand out with. So the best thing to use to showcase your skills or your expertise or what you're good at is a portfolio. You can build an application and screenshot all the screens of the application, and just probably use a nice website template. You might not actually build this website by yourself. There are so many free templates online that you can do like a little website. You paste those screenshots. You tell people what that application does and what you use in building it. So you need about like 3 is okay. 3 samples of your application is okay. Or you can even use GitHub. You can do like a little GIF of you operating your application. So you don't need any certificate. Anybody that tells you need a certificate probably just wants to push you more. But I mean, if you have this portfolio and you have a certificate, it will make you stand out better. But the most important thing is you have something to show people. Certificates don't do that. Certificates don't show that you built so and so app, but it's what people can see that's mostly important. So work on the applications first, display them, let people see what you did. Then you can start searching for professional certificates like maybe the Associate Android Developer Certificate or other ones.
Okay. So another question. Someone advised me to go for Flutter from the start and not bother with Javelin or Kotlin. What do you recommend?
Okay, I don't want to start another Flutter Android battle here on the but Flutter is cool. Me for one, I haven't learned Flutter honestly. Flutter is cross-platform. You can write for both iOS and Android. It saves a lot of time. But I feel you should go with the one that you dig better. You get the most important thing is that you're calling yourself a mobile developer. So anyone you dig or anyone you have a little flair for, you go for it. Another thing is do not follow the trend. What is easy for some other people will be hard for you, and what is easy for you will be hard for other people. So check out the two of them. Don't say which one should I do. Try the both of them. Look at it. Look at Flutter. Build with Flutter. See how it is. Build with Android. The one that is easier for you, you go for it. Thing is, I'm not sure about the job market in Flutter because it just came out new. But I see that so many startups and so many companies are adopting Flutter developers. But nobody said you can't learn the both of them. If you can build some apps with native Android, maybe about 2. You build some apps with Flutter, probably about 2. You can learn the both. You can even learn iOS and make yourself like a full stack mobile developer. So for the person asking, just try the both of them. Don't go by what people say. Try the both of them and see the one that you like or the one that looks fun for you. Then go with that one.
Okay, so another question. Can you suggest any platform for self-teaching on programming for novices? I think she has said that already.
Okay. The thing is, when you're starting out bar from scratch, you would do a lot of things. You would do like I remember I did Code Academy, I did Udemy, I did Udacity, YouTube. I did everything, but the thing is when you do everything, you get to find out the one that is better to be able to like tell other people. So the thing is when you're just starting out newly, you would definitely try almost everything. It won't be like a straight road. Okay, I'm learning this, I'm learning this, I'm learning this. You would go like in a snake kind of motion till you get to your pace. But the thing is, if I recommend some, you might not. There are some resources that people recommended for me that I didn't really like. So I ended up doing different things till I got the this thing that works for me. So if you're actually new, Code Academy has a very nice layout for learning. It's very interactive. ProGates too has one of those interactive platforms. So you can check those out. Code Academy, ProGates. Udacity has an introduction to programming course. It is very basic. You don't need to know maths or computer science, all those things. Introduction to programming on Udacity. Me personally, I don't really like Udemy, so I don't know. I don't think if I can recommend any courses from Udemy. But Code Academy, Udacity, and ProGate are the 3 I could recommend. The thing is, if I mention YouTube, YouTube is not too direct. YouTube can rush you. It can teach you shortcuts that you might not really need when once you're just starting out. But these 3 platforms will build you like from the scratch. It will give you a very solid foundation before you're now mature enough to know the resources that are good for you and the ones that are not really so good for you. So those are my 3 for beginners, like from scratch.
Okay. So another question: do you code in Java or Kotlin?
I code both, but presently I'm doing Kotlin, but I still do a little bit Java.
Okay. So the last question for this session: uh, salary expectation. What are the salary expectations for Java devs in Nigeria? And at what stage do you recommend you start applying for jobs?
Okay, so the person said Java devs, Java for Android or Java for backend. That's the confusion now I'm having. If it's Java for if it's Java for Android, I really don't know. Companies have their own rates that they pay people. So it varies. It varies from junior to mid or to senior level. So I might not really pinpoint the particular salary, but I feel it should be comfortable enough, both for Java backend or Android. I'm not really sure. And when do you feel comfortable to start applying for jobs is once you can build projects from start to finish. So if you can build an Android application now from start to finish and publish it, you gain that confidence of applying for real jobs on Google. Why I'm saying this is because once you're applying, they will need proof that you know what you're doing. They will need proof that they're not just applying someone that is ready to learn in quotes. So if you could build 3 projects, now I'm talking about 3 solid projects, projects that people can actually use on their cell phones, projects that can actually help people. We're not talking about your personal projects now. 3 solid projects, but not too complicated, something you can showcase and wow people. So if you can build 3 solid projects and probably publish 1 or 2 on Play Store, it gives potential employers that the idea that you know what you're doing, you know how to build applications that scale, and you know how to ship, because there's one thing in building, like I said, and there's another thing in shipping these applications. So it gives them that impression, that whole package that okay, you can be ready to work on bigger things. So once you start building and publishing your applications on Play Store, it might not be 2 is okay, or even 1. You gain that confidence. Nobody will even tell yourself to start applying. You gain that confidence to just start applying.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
For your session. The links to meet links to reach her out or to connect with her has been placed in the chat section, and also um, the link to the slides where
Okay.
it will be sent. So you can just drop it. So
Okay.
that's for the Android session. So the
Thank
next
you.
session we have, yeah, you're welcome. So for the next session that we have, we're going to be talking about Flutter. So the person that we have to speak on Flutter is Festus Olusegun. So let's welcome Festus Olusegun, and I'll be giving his bio. So Festus Olusegun is a mobile and backend engineer, majorly a software engineer who spent or who spends most of his time working with Flutter, and he also has experience working with a lot of languages like Java, Kotlin, Swift, JavaScript, and the likes. He's an active open source contributor and he loves mentoring developers. During his free time, he loves to make beats, watch movies, and play video games. So there's a lot about him actually, but that's just to keep it short. So as we'll be welcoming Festus, please can you start now? Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Festus Olusegun, and I'll be talking about Flutter. I have some slides here prepared, so I'll share my screen so we can see the slides. Okay. Can you see my screen? Can you see the slides? Everyone, can you see my slides?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So first of all, about me, I am a software engineer at Liberate, an open source contributor. This is my GitHub profile. It speaks for itself. And a Flutter developer. So I'm going to start with what is Flutter? Flutter is an open source UI software development kit, SDK, created by Google. It is used to develop Flutter, used to develop applications for Android, iOS, Linux, Mac, Windows, and Linux, Mac, Windows, Google Fuchsia, and the web from a single code base. Flutter uses the Dart programming language. This is to say that Flutter is cross-platform, so you can develop apps for literally all the platform with Flutter, from mobile to desktop to the new OS Google was working on to replace Android, Google Fuchsia, and the web. So why Flutter? Well, Flutter is simple to learn and use. Flutter gives you fast development because there's this thing in Flutter called auto reload, which while developing, you can quickly reload. You can quickly just maybe save your work and you see the UI immediately, unlike in other developments where you literally have to restart the app, restart the whole app from the beginning. Expressive and flexible UI, Flutter allows you to create very beautiful and neat UI. Good documentation. The Flutter documentation is very, very straightforward and very well arranged. Native performance. Flutter apps have a very, very good performance that is almost indistinguishable from the native app performance. Also, Flutter is open source. So Flutter is open source, it's free. You can also contribute to it as an individual. The learning roadmap for Flutter. So to get started with Flutter, my advice would be to first learn the basics of the Dart language, because Flutter uses the Dart language, so you can learn things like variables, creating classes, and all the basics of the language. I've seen people going into Flutter without learning that, and it's always disastrous to just learn Flutter without learning that. So the next thing is widgets. In Flutter, everything is a widget. The components, the screen, the button, the text, everything on your screen is a widget. So to be good to experiment around and see what the widgets are for, when you should use them, and also how to use them. The next thing will be animations. Animations in Flutter actually is divided into several ways. We have the implicit and the explicit animation. For a start, you can learn the implicit one. That's the simple part of it. The next thing is fetching data from the internet. What this simply means is learning how to fetch data from the API, or maybe using WebSockets. Also, Firebase is also one of it. Learn how to get data from your Cloud Firestore into your app, using the authentication to log in users and log out users, things like that. The next thing, state management. So state management, there are several state management techniques in Flutter, and people are still creating more because Flutter is relatively new and still evolving. So you have a lot of several choices, several things to choose from. So you can learn any of those. Also, testing, unit testing, widget testing, integration testing. testing is very, very important, but for a start, it's not actually that important, but it's a good to have. Uh, for someone that's starting out, it's not very important, but it's a good to know. So the last thing, bonus, how to publish your app to the Play Store and the App Store. So also it would be good for you to know how to get your account, your Play Store account and your App Store accounts, and also how to publish your app there so people can see your app and test it out for you. The next section is starting a new Flutter app. So whenever you want to start a new Flutter app, there are things Flutter app there. These are some things that you should consider. Choosing a design style. Since Flutter is cross-platform, you have two design styles to choose from: the material and the Cupertino. The material is the Android design style, while the Cupertino is the iOS design style. If you notice, if you pick up an Android device, an iPhone or an iPad or any iOS device, really, so that the UI is different. The iOS devices, they have this transparent like UI that's called the Cupertino style, and the Android has the material design. The next thing you should, after choosing your design system and trying to lay out your UI, next thing is to go to choose a state management technique or a design pattern. So choosing state management technique, like maybe you choose to use provider, block, whatever really, and also design pattern like MVC, Mdvm, and so on. I prefer to work with Mdvm because it's kind of straightforward, I think. And also, you should also try to handle responsiveness in your app. And there are several ways to handle responsiveness in Flutter. You can use the media query, the layout builder, etc. When I say etc, I mean maybe packages. You can get packages or plugins from pub. Like there's one very popular one called Responsive Builder. That one helps you to make your app responsive because Flutter allows you to build for web and desktop from a single code base. So you need to really make your app responsive. So when they launch your app on the web, it shows them a web design, and when they launch it on mobile, it shows a mobile design. So it won't be like some buttons are jumping out of your screen, some texts are nowhere to be found, or things like that. So next, career opportunities. As someone who is learning Flutter, you should know that you are heading out to be for two major roles: Flutter developer. What I mean by Flutter developer is because Flutter is wide, used for several platforms. You can be hired to code for mobile and web at the same time using Flutter. That's what I mean by Flutter developer. And also, you can just be a mobile developer, just code for Android and iOS. The reason why I didn't include desktop here is because it's not stable. Even the web is not stable, but people are trying it out. Flutter web is not stable. People are trying it out. They're trying to migrate some of their websites to Flutter web in case it ever becomes stable, and they can be prepared for that. Random facts. So I just created some things here that I called random facts about Flutter. So first, the average salary for Flutter ranges from $71,000 yearly to $122,000 yearly. This is not the Nigerian standard salary rate. This is according to Indeed.com. So this could be salary rate in the US. I'm not sure. The next thing, React Native app development is the main competitor of Flutter. So we have several cross-platform development tools. We have Ionic, we have PhoneGap, we have some that a lot of people don't even know. There's one called Corona SDK. can Google it up. But all these things, none of them can compete with Flutter. Only React Native is actually worthy to be a competitor for Flutter. Next fact is Flutter is supported by several IDEs. So what this means is that you don't necessarily need to have Android Studio to code Flutter. A lot of people ask that kind of question, like, do I need Android Studio to start Flutter? Actually, you don't really need it. You can use VS Code, you can use, or you can also use IntelliJ for Flutter development. So jobs, if you are looking for jobs, one of the first thing I would say is you can check Stack Overflow jobs. There are jobs there for you. LinkedIn, you can subscribe to LinkedIn job notification for Flutter, and also Angel Lists. Angel List, if you go to Angel List, you see a long list of jobs for you. Also, you can also freelance. But the best way to actually get a job from me though is sharing your skills. Like you can create stuff. When you create your stuff, you can push it to GitHub, share it around on Twitter, on Facebook, anywhere really. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and when people see what you can do, they will surely reach out to you. So I just added some links here that people can check out. First one is the Flutter official website. Here you can read a lot about Flutter. You can go there, flutter.dev. The next one, how to install Flutter on your local machine, how to set up an editor, test drive, and also you can follow the code lab of that walk you through creating your first app. Also, the Flutter community is on various platforms. Flutter community is expanding, and if you want to join the community, you can check out the link below to see several communities that you can join. Yeah, I think that concludes my talk. It was very short, but I hope people learned from it. So any questions, please?
Okay, please, if you have any questions, write it in the chat section. Thank you. Okay, there's a question. What is the importance of native in Flutter?
Okay. So I would say native is very, very important in Flutter. I mean, not for everyone really. It's just people that want to dive in. People that if you want to like maybe you want to learn how to create plugins and things like that, native is very important for you because at the end of the day, you can use Flutter to communicate with the native side of things. Because at the end of the day, Flutter, as you're running the app on a mobile device, so you should be able to communicate to native code to do some certain things that Flutter originally cannot do. I mean, the Flutter that code cannot do. So you can communicate to your native to do those things. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, so any more questions? I'm not seeing questions. All these ones are not questions, just one. May I have a question? Or can I be your PA?
Submit the application now.
Sure. So any more questions? Any more questions? Another question: what's the importance of null safety?
Sorry, can you come again?
And what's the importance of null safety?
Um, right now, no safety in that is still like it's still currently uh, in beta, so you can opt into test. But um, the main use of no safety, if I'm not mistaken, is okay. So I'm not really sure how I can explain this. Kind of like difficult for me to explain. Let me try to put my words together. Okay, so let's say when you are using no safety, your values can't be null, something like that. I can't really explain because yeah. I just hope that answers the question. When you're using no safety, when you're using no safety, you can specify if you want your values to be null or not. That's just what it is.
Okay, so I think that answers it. Then another question: how do you create stuff to put out there when it seems like everything has been done already?
So that question is is a little bit difficult. So well, everything has not been done. I don't think everything has been done. I as a person, I just get random ideas and I just create them. If you think everything has been done, everything can always be improved on. Actually, let's say every app can be improved on, and you can decide to put out an app that has more features than the original one. So yeah.
Okay, they're asking another question: are you going to like give the link to the slide?
Yes, I will.
Okay. Okay, another question. Flutter has this new potential out there. What's the future with Flutter? Like, do you have anything to say about Flutter dev, and how what is the foreseen knowledge in 5 years to now?
A lot of people are actually contemplating on. They are thinking maybe Flutter will be killed in a few years, and I, as a person, I don't think so because Flutter is really making a lot of waves. Flutter is making waves, and I don't think Google will want to kill that kind of thing. Yeah, a lot of people are using it. In fact, Google, I'm pretty sure Google will be organizing some things for startups soon. Startups soon. I think it's called Flutter Incubator or thereabouts. So where you can apply what the incubation will be for will be like you build your startup in Flutter and I think you probably get Google sponsoring or something like that. I'm not really sure what it's for, but I think that should be it. So Flutter will not be killed anytime soon.
Okay, so another question: is Swift a good option for iOS development? And what advantage does it have over Flutter?
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, Swift is a good option for iOS development. And what advantage does it have over Flutter? You say? I won't say much. If you want to only develop for iOS, it might be better for you to actually use Swift because there are probably some things out there that maybe some particular um, libraries, Swift libraries that are not on that have not been ported to Flutter yet. Because I've experienced something like that. So if you're only building for iOS and maybe you require some big libraries to be used, you can just go for Swift. But if not, you can use Flutter.
Okay, another question. Should we learn GraphQL?
GraphQL is not important, except maybe it's needed by your startup or person that is employing you. Learning JSON, I think learning JSON is enough because that's more widely used than GraphQL. In fact,
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? I think so I have a question as a Flutter dev, or if I want to venture into the mobile field, how many languages should I know? Is it that I should learn like 5 languages? Like now, you know about 8 languages. So if I want to become a mobile dev, do I have to learn all those languages?
no. If you want to learn Flutter, you can just learn Dart and you'll be good. But you can also decide to maybe further your further your learning by learning the native languages. You don't necessarily have to learn like if you want to learn to develop Founder, you don't necessarily have to learn Java and Kotlin at the same time. You can just decide to learn just one. The same thing as iOS, so you don't have to know 8 languages.
So we should not learn the amount of languages that you learned, so that will not be like a boss like you.
I mean, I didn't start learning today, so yeah,
Godwin, Godwin.
we learn it today.
Okay, so I think there are no more questions. I think that's all. How many years experience?
I've been coding for more than 4 years now. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I think that's like all the questions we have. So the link to the slide is going to share it soon. So I think that's all for the talk for today. If you need to reach out to them, please, Jide, please drop your social media handle so that if even anyone has more questions, they can reach out to you.
Okay.
So thank you very much. So the next thing that we have now is we have one more thing, Slido. Time for we don't know that it's going to result to giveaway today because we've been playing it since Monday and we've not had giveaway since. But today I don't know if it will be different. So let's us go to app.slido.com and let's just play with some questions. Okay, I'm sending the link now. Okay, so I've sent the event password. So now I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so where's it present now? So let's join. No one has joined yet. Just for a while. How many on the call? At 20 and just 7 people. At least it should be like 15, just 8. Let's join, please. Just 9 people. At least let one more person join so that it can be 10. Okay, so at 10, start. Let's see. Who will feel that one? Okay, so let's see. So we have Oluwatosin as the first, Khalid and Rene as the third person. Thank you very much for playing. It was lovely. So I'm going to stop. So thank you very much for playing. Unfortunately, I was told that there's no money for giveaway, so I can't do giveaway. There's no money. Maybe if you come for community checkup, they will give away then. So once again, this brings us to the end of our event, week-long event, which was titled "The Deep Insight into Tech." I want to say again, like I said, thank you for all those who have been joining since Monday, especially Eniola Alex. He has been in all the 5 sessions that we had. No, it's going to be 10. It's 10 now. Yeah. So next week, some of our upcoming events, we have a community checkup by next week. We just come around to talk about ourselves, and we'll talk about what we've done. We just laugh, majorly bants, no tech talk. Everyone just come and say what you have on your mind, how we can make DSC in life better, what event you want, what the people you want to see, and what we should stop doing, what we should start doing. So things like that. And we'll just be telling you most of our events for the year in that call. So if you want to join, I've sent the link, DSC in dev/checkup, RSVP there, and I would love to see each and every one of us on this call there next week. So thank you very much and have a lovely weekend. Bye everyone.